All right, welcome everybody to the Monday, October 2nd, 2017 meeting of Kubernetes SIG Service Catalog. Does anybody want to run through the short agenda today? If not, I will happily do it. All right. I will go ahead and do it. All right. First up is Ville, who, let's see, did he join? Yeah, go ahead, Ville, you're up.
Yeah, so we have been talking about maybe having a face-to-face in conjunction with the OSB face-to-face that is happening in Raleigh, and I had put together a doodle to go and see what dates work for people, and there has been very little action on it, so just so people can make travel plans accordingly. Please, if you're interested in coming, go take a look and fill it in. So right now we have 4 participants. I'm hoping there would be more people that would be interested in joining.
Paul, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we actually announced the doodle in a call. Maybe I'm just not remembering it. Might be a good idea to go ahead and stick it in the Slack channel.
Yeah, I already did. I put it in the Slack channel, and I also put one of the follow-up action items here. But there it is again.
Okay. All right. Any questions about that before we move on? Okay, next up is me and Doug. So if folks do not remember, we spoke last week about the possibility of creating namespace scoped resources eventually for service brokers, service service brokers, service classes, and service plans. There's a question then about whether we should rename any of the resources that we currently have. So Doug and I went to SIG Architecture last week, and the consensus coming out of that was that we should rename all of the existing cluster scoped resources. So service broker, service class, and service plan to be cluster service broker, cluster service class, cluster service plan. That's pretty much it. There's I created an issue for this. I think that we should hold off on doing it until the rest of the API stabilizes, which should be very soon based on what I see is in progress right now. And that's pretty much what I have for that one. Doug, did I miss anything?
Nope, I think you covered it.
All right. Any other questions about that one before we move on? I am not looking at the chat window, so if you, okay, Nal, go ahead.
Yeah, so does it mean that now we'll have 2 resources for broker, for service class, and service plan?
It does, but we do not want to make a resource both namespaced and non-namespaced. Events were like that, and it's been total disaster is what we heard. So yeah, when we add namespace scoped versions of these things, they'll be separate resources.
Right. So the current service broker, service class, and service plan will become cluster prefixed?
Yep.
And then we'll add like the old names, but we will re-add them as namespace scope. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, doesn't look like it. Next up is I think that we should think about whether when the time that is right is going to be to integrate the settings API group. Sunil has done a lot of work on that. I think we've all been much more focused, understandably so, on the functionality that is like part of the service catalog API group. I think that we should not let Sunil's work wither on the vine. But I also don't think that the rebase burden is especially terrible for him. I think we ought to just consider whether we want that to be part of our initial beta release, even though it will be at an alpha API level, or whether we should add it after 0.1.0. No need to make a decision now. I just wanted to bring it up, and if anybody has things they want to say about it, Doug, I see your hand is up.
I'm just wondering, when we do that, do we need to coordinate it with the removal of pod preset from core?
I don't think that anything is going to be happening in Kubernetes until the next release. I'm not sure off of the top of my head whether that API group is still in Kubernetes. I can take an action item to find that out, and maybe we can discuss it in a meeting this week.
Yeah, because I agree with you. Obviously, they're not going to drop pod preset from core until the next official release, but it'd be nice if when we merge it into ours, the PR for the core goes in at the same time to remove it, so that by the time the next release does go out, there isn't confusion about which pod preset is the one people should use.
Yeah, they are different API groups, so they'll at least be disambiguated if for some reason we don't get them to line up 100%.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, I think that's it for that one. Vile, you're next. Breaking changes for next release.
Well, yeah, so I'm not sure if you ever announced, for example, some of these renames and things like that on the mailing lists. And that seems bad.
Yeah, I think that we should, I actually don't think we have any breaking changes going in the next release that we know of right now, but I have been trying to make an effort to let people know when breaking changes were going to happen. I think that it would be worth an email, and I'll take an action item for this, to say that we are still going to have breaking changes. We'll let you know when we know exactly what they are, when they'll be deployed. But I think at this point, everybody should assume that we'll have breaking changes in every release until we go to beta. All right. Any other questions or comments about that one? Okay, next up is Nal, CRD support. Go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if we need to merge CRD support before we rebase onto 1.8, and what is our plan to, in according to beta release, do we want to rebase before we release beta? And also, like, when we rebase onto 1.8, we will have to drop TPR support, which is a breaking change. So I'm not sure if it's important for beta release or not.
Okay, I stuck my hand up. One, I see Doug says +1 to rebase. I'm not sure what that means exactly, Doug. Maybe in a minute you can articulate yourself. So for me, I think that we should drop TPR support and merge CRD support before we release the beta. TPR support does not work fully, as far as I know. And I would like not to have to carry that code any longer than we have to. Some of the tests around it are flaky. I do think that some of the folks from Microsoft might have an opinion about this. And so we should probably not make a decision here, but my own personal preference would be to eliminate the TPR stuff as soon as possible and merge CRD support before our beta release. Any other opinions about that people want to share?
Yeah, I just want to mention that TPRs don't work with API aggregator, so you're right. I'm not sure if they work with other things, if there are any other issues, but with API aggregator, they don't work for sure, because for CRDs, I had to basically, for TPRs, the resource names are the same and namespace is the same for both TPRs and Service Catalog API server. So when you try to register both of them in API aggregator, there is a clashing between two, so it doesn't work. So for CRDs, I had to set up a different namespace for CRDs so that they don't clash with each other. So yeah, you're right that there is an issue, at least with some things with GPR support, so I would drop it soon. But I guess we still probably need to merge CRDs first before dropping TPRs. I'm not sure actually if TPRs don't work, do we even care about the introducing CRDs first?
Honestly, I think that it might be easier if we remove TPRs first, is my gut. I am not an expert in the code required to handle TPRs though, so it might be worth maybe, Nal, if you and I can find some time to look at it. I'm not sure if Aaron is going to be back this week or not. So it might be worth a look before we make a decision, but my gut says it's probably better to remove them first and keep the accommodations that we made for them around and just remove them and then add new TPRs instead of trying to, add CRD support in after, instead of trying to then have 3 different backends and remove one. But it's probably worth some investigation.
So I think my hand's up next. I think what I'm hearing in terms of a direction going forward is to try to head down the path of removing TPRs and then add CRDs. Is that what I'm hearing is the proposed direction?
That is what I think would be best, but that is only my personal opinion. I don't know if anybody else feels differently.
Right, Null, is that what you'd like to see as well?
So I have already an open CRD PR. It has some comments, but I don't think anyone in this call has reviewed it yet. And I mean, I'm not sure actually. It might be actually easier to see that most of the stuff which I did for CRD is basically copy pasting TPR stuff and just changing it. So if I remove TPR support first, I guess it might be harder to review to see that it's something which has been already reviewed for TPRs. So this is what I'm not sure about. And
maybe it's less work than if we merge your pull after it's rebased, if it needs rebase, and then remove the TPR stuff.
Okay, yeah, I guess I will just try to look at the CRD support cleanup, all the things. There are also some issues. At least one issue open for TPRs that I think updates are working different from etcd for TPRs, and because I copy pasted some stuff from TPRs, we have the same issue for CRDs. But I would prefer to address some issues after I merge, because it's already a pretty big one.
Okay, Doug, your hand is up.
Yeah, so now would you prefer to get your CRD stuff in before or after a rebase to 1.8?
So I think that I need to merge it before. Well, if we say that we can drop the TPR first, it's actually not that critical. But yeah, actually, I have already switched to trying to rebase onto 1.8, so we can actually do that first. I'm not sure. I guess we can just decide now what is more.
Well, I was just thinking, since since it feels like you're sort of in the middle of both of these issues, what would be your recommended path forward? Rebase to 1.8, and then merge CRDs, and then drop TPRs? Is that the order in which you'd like to see things happen?
So we can drop, basically when we rebase onto 1.8, we will have to drop TPRs in the same PR. So I guess one of the reasons to drop TPR support first is to just make the PR on rebasing onto 1.8 smaller, because otherwise we will have to, like in the rebasing PR, we'll have to drop all the TPR stuff because there is no API for working with TPRs anymore.
Okay, so I think there's one other thing we haven't spoken about yet, which is also in play, is rebase to 176. I think the set of things we're talking about is rebase to 176, add CRD support, remove TPR support, rebase to 1.8. And the reason we wanted to do a 176 rebase is I think it's a much less intrusive change that will pick up some fixes. There's already a pull request for it. I think the only question on that one is, does it need to be rebased now?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we need to rebase. I will take a look. It's pretty trivial, so there are no breaking changes. The only problem I had is that because of how monorepo works and syncing from monorepo to separate repos, some of the repos, client Go, I think, is stale. So it's in sync with 1.7.5. But for some reason, they haven't synced it with the latest release for some reason. So it all compiles and works, but basically Kubernetes 1.7.6 is in sync with the release, and some others are actually stale, and they're like snapshots, which I took the latest commit from the particular release, but it's not the same as the latest commit in the main monorepo. So I think there is some issues with API machinery syncing or something like that. I have actually raised an issue. I don't think it's been addressed. I will just check. So I guess we would prefer to rebase once we have actually all the commits in sync. Yeah, I'll just send the link right now.
So now, like I said, though, since it feels like you're sort of in the middle of all these things, can I suggest that you just make a recommendation in terms of how you'd like these things to be ordered, and just see what people think?
Yeah, I think that Paul's recommendation was the best one. The rebasing 1.7.6, then merging CRD, then dropping TPR, and then rebasing onto 1.8. So it sounds good. The only problem is that I guess like we can merge the first PR, but it's, as I said, the dependency on client Go is not a release one. It's just latest commit in the repo, which has been synced yet.
Okay, so we need somebody to take an action item to talk to API machinery and ensure that we know, one, what the timeline around client Go being updated to 1.8 is, and then I also seem to recall in prior discussions with API machinery, we talked about a need to have release tags for these repos so that you don't have to chase down a bunch of random SHAs, that you could just have a 1.8.0 tag that you could use for all these things. I'll take the action item on communication with API machinery, and Nal, you probably want to be on that one too.
Okay. When is the next? Do you want to join the call, or how do you want to ask the question?
So the next meeting is not until a week after this one, so it's next week. I'm probably, after this, going to start asking questions in their SIG channel and see if we can get somebody to action these things if it's not already being done.
So was that proposal that Paul put forward, rebase to 176, merge CRD, then drop TPRs, then rebase to 1.8? Is that the plan going forward?
Yeah, I guess I can still just for now just work on the CRD PR, clean up some stuff, and rebase it and see how it goes. We can actually merge CRDs first. I don't think they have to be in order with the 1.7.6, and like the rest 3 issues, I guess, should be in the order which is currently written.
So you want to merge CRD first?
I don't think it's important in which order to merge.
Okay.
I'm just saying that the 1.7.6 is blocked because there are some commits out of things, while CRD doesn't have this issue.
Okay. Well, is there any objection to, in general, this random order, or to letting null figure out the proper order? I don't think anybody really has any opinion. I don't see anybody jumping up and down on this topic. So it seems to me, as long as you figure out the best order to get it in there sooner rather than later, it sounds like the best way to go. While Paul has his comfort cat in front of him.
That's right. One of the official cats of Service Catalog.
Is it just the angle, or is that a really long cat?
No, it's just the angle.
Okay.
All right. Okay, any other business before we drop? All right, I'm not hearing anything. Okay, well, then you all get 33 minutes back and 1 cat tail. And we'll see you all on the internet. All right. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.